Coquitlam, Maillardville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about children in sport. It's my pleasure to respond to the member from Surrey White Rock and to share my thoughts about children in sport. As the opposition spokesperson in sport, I've been following this file and talking to various stakeholders about the role that sport has in the lives of children and in our communities. We can all agree that sport is a great opportunity for children to be physically active, develop friendships, and learn skills, whether those skills are physical skills or leadership skills. We know that these skills are life lessons and that engagement and appreciation of sport at a young age can lead to a lifelong participation in sport and physical activity. I want to note that there's another component to children in sport, and that's the development of community. When my daughter aged out of organized hockey, a sport she loved from the time that she was 5 years old, my husband and I would still find ourselves at the hockey rink on a Sunday afternoon at 3:45, even though our daughter wasn't there. Parents would ask us why we were there. We were off the hook. We could do whatever we wanted. There were no more skates to tie. There were no more game sheets to complete. There were no more stinky dressing rooms. We were there because that's what we had been doing for years, and we were missing our friends. After 12 years of practically living at the rink, I came to discover that my social group, my community, were the hockey parents. The parents that I came to appreciate as we took turns tying skates, shared strategies for de-stinking hockey gear, and yes, girls' gear smells as bad as boys' gear, and of course, traveling to tournaments. We'd become friends, caring for each other, becoming backup parents for our girls. We had created community, each of us becoming more resilient because we had each other's backs. We all hear how it takes a village to raise a child, and we had a village of hockey parents. But what about those parents who can't quite afford to have their children participate in sport and reap the values and benefits that organized sport brings? From the life lessons and physical activity for our children to the community that is created among the parents. I am grateful that we do have Kids Sport, an amazing organization, Honourable Speaker, committed to raising funds so that all children have access to organized sport. In my own community, the Tri-Cities chapter of Kids Sport raised $131,000 last year and made it possible for 635 children to participate in organized sport. And I had the opportunity to talk to the Tri-Cities Kids Sport Executive Director, Chris Wilson, when I learned that I would be responding to the statement, and I asked him what I should include in my response. So we talked about the generosity of the community and the value that all children should have the opportunity to access organized sport. But we kept coming back to the importance of changing the need for kids' sport. So just like food banks, Honourable Speaker, which were supposed to be a temporary measure back in the early 1980s when the economy was particularly difficult, and we're all grateful for food banks, we now have kids' sport. But at the end of the day, this is not a solution. Food banks and kids' sport often serve the same families who are poor or who are really struggling to make ends meet. Additionally, there is something really humiliating about having to ask for a handout, whether it's a bag of groceries or funding to enroll your child into organized sport. Kids Sport requires that someone endorse the application, an application usually made by the parent. The endorser verifies that the parent is, in fact, unable to pay up to $300 to support their child in their chosen activity. And I've been an endorser, Honourable Speaker, and I've witnessed the humiliation that parents have when they have to ask for help. Their preference would be to have enough money at the end of the month to pay for their child's participation in organized sport. But after paying for increased hydro rates, MSP premiums, and unaffordable housing, they just can't make it work. These parents would prefer to not have these increased government fees. These parents would prefer to not have to pay increased public school fees where they have to dole out hundreds of dollars at the beginning of the school year. These parents would prefer to have real financial assistance, upgrading their high school or perhaps their high school diploma, or perhaps relief with student loans. These parents would prefer to be writing a check directly to the sport organization rather than completing an application for Kids Sport. These parents know that these increased fees are making it more difficult to make ends meet, and we know that a multi-pronged and comprehensive poverty reduction strategy would make a real difference in the lives of these parents. Without a plan and a growing wage gap, these parents have to make difficult choices. And while I appreciate that our communities step up to support these children through Kids Sport, Honourable Speaker, I would prefer to avoid the humiliation that comes with asking for help and give these parents the dignity and the real supports they need to make ends meet so they don't have to fill out an application form, so they don't have to ask someone to vouch that they indeed don't have the resources to pay for their child's desire to play their sport like everyone else. I would prefer a government that stopped nickel and diming its citizens, a government that didn't give tax breaks to the wealthiest taxpayers, a government that developed a comprehensive poverty reduction strategy would be better for all children to access
Member.
organized sport in their community. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.